within each of these segments, we are going to explore how autonomy can be created. The 3 E's that we'll be exploring are elegant task, environment, and evaluation. So firstly, we are going to talk about elegant task. So for the purpose of this presentation, we will be focused on 3 main types of elegant task. The first one is a design-based elegant task. Second one is a concept-based elegant task. And the last one is a medium-based elegant task. For a design-based elegant task, what we find important is for students to understand a function of art in society. And this can actually go from something that prescriptive to something that is very autonomous. So for example, the table design that the students did, it has a fixed function. The function is that it must function as a table. But within that, they have the autonomy to decide for themselves whether they want to create a study table, a dining table, it might be a work table, it could be a picnic table. So there are some form of autonomy in the minute differences in the function, but the main purpose is a table. The medium and form, they actually explored many different mediums and form. In one of this example, you can see the students actually use wood and glass. And then there was a student who used ice cream sticks. There are students who use cardboards. So there weren't any restrictions in the materials that they use, but all of them were creating tables. So on the other spectrum of autonomy in terms of design-based, you could actually get students to design something that doesn't have a fixed form. So for example, if I give the students a theme of study and I ask them to design something that would help them to study better, it could come in a form of a physical object, it could come in a form of an application, it could come in a form of a game. Depending on your student's level of readiness, you can actually create a design-based elegant task that has fixed function, but it comes in different types of form.
The other example that I would like to share is how we fix a topic and actually give autonomy in terms of the use of medium and the form. For topic, it doesn't need to be a theme. It can be a concept, it can be a phenomenon, it can be a word, it can even be an object that as a stimulus. I would like to use this example. The concepts that they are playing with is light, play, and textured. But in a way, the form is kind of fixed. It must be a 3-dimensional response. This class of students, what they've done is they are given a choice in terms of medium, even within the 3D form, what kind of response they are going to provide. And as a result, some of them came up with sculptural, architectural kind of model to bring the 3 concepts together. And some actually responded through a structure that looks like a toy but yet looks also like an architectural design model. So that's one way to actually approach the autonomy in terms of medium and form by giving them a topic.
We come to the final and third category of elegant tasks that we have identified. Of course, by no means are these categories exhaustive. Teachers should have free rein to be able to customize the variables for students. Each task does not need to stay within these categories. I think we have shared a range. Feel free to customize. For the medium-based elegant task, a particular project that was given to students involved the teacher fixing the form. In this case, video diptych being the form. Autonomy was given to students in terms of the development of concept and the process taken to achieve the product. The video diptych as a form is not just something that is done on the left side and right side. To be able to deal with the idea of a duality or polarity conceptually and then realizing it through diptych format. There's a range of things that students came up with, the different genres of video, filming, camera angles, shots, pace, and of course putting them together post-production in terms of speed, synchrony, and sequence. Students had full autonomy to explore all the different functions, possibilities. So here you have what is playing. I've seen is actually something that is of a sort of horror or suspense genre. I think shot really well despite the poor lighting. The students were quite innovative to be able to put light in the corner of the room through the toilet and things like that. This second example, there's some sort of outdoor shooting that's happening, engaging friends who then double up as actors. But the script, sound and video, everything post-production is actually done sort of single-handedly by the students themselves, really being quite creative in terms of what they hope to achieve. So just moving on to our next segment on the environment. Likewise, again, we are presenting it to you with 3 categories, but please feel free to customize accordingly. In the first part, we find that there's a possibility of giving autonomy in the environment in terms of the stimulus that the environment provides, autonomy in the environment in terms of the materials and tools that are given to the students in terms of the choices that they have. And finally, the environment as a working space and the autonomy that is given based on the idea that they come up with and the different flexibility that we can provide for them.
So giving autonomy and having environment as a stimulus is a common way we start coursework. For example, in gathering and investigation, there's an importance in giving students autonomy in choosing what inspires them. We do know that when you just throw students out there and say like, oh, okay, just find inspiration in the world out there, be free, and they kind of get intimidated and they are not sure what kind of stimulus to pick up. That is where we can guide them and draw a box for them. But it's important that we also make sure that this box is big enough for them to explore widely. According to student readiness, give them more autonomy as they are more ready to take on a larger scope or explore a larger range of things that inspires them.
The other aspect that we can consider in terms of autonomy in the environment is through the materials and tools. Make the materials visible for the students so that they are enticed, excited to really try on. Things like using discarded trolleys from old projectors and converted it to a material tray, categorizing certain materials or certain tools and equipment in different transparent boxes and label them. This also allows them to see what is available for them when they are going about doing their process, their planning, their making, and be able to pick and choose the most appropriate materials or tools to express or bring out their concepts or their ideas. Making it visible is actually very key in terms of allowing them the autonomy of choice and really excites them that, hey, actually I can use this material for this particular concept or this particular part of my idea. Even like workstations for glue guns, for foam cutters, if you have 3D pens, even like workstations for cutting, things like that will allow the students to have different platforms and different areas of work so that they can actually move around the room or even out of the room to go about their process.
Okay, we come to the sort of third category of the environment as a working space and autonomy that we can give to it. I think similar to previous category, the idea that underlies it is the concept of choice-based education, where we give students that choice and the autonomy to be able to make decisions based on what is available to them. In terms of working space, I think we are very comfortable with having students remain in the classroom, seated at the table to be doing certain projects or processes. But really moving forward, if our resources and manpower really allows for it, of course also the maturity of students, if we can allow them to go outside of the classroom to be doing their work, sometimes the work will be naturally able to take on a larger scale. In some senses also the stimulus that is given around them will also inspire them accordingly. So an example of maybe how the working space can be sort of a bit different is students were allowed to make extended arm drawings that with the extension of the arm being like 2 stories high, to be drawing from the second floor on a piece of paper that's on the first floor, and so on and so forth. I think if students have certain ideas and things like that, they may sound maybe wacky or far-fetched at the first time, but really if we sort of entertain and give them that chance to explore the possibilities of it, they might be excited and really feel like maybe their ideas have a kind of investment or weight. And of course when they finally realize this work or process, they will naturally be more motivated or rewarded accordingly. Right, so we come to the third E, that is evaluation. Many times you are wondering how evaluation works. I think it has certain connotations with assessment, but these 3 categories that we'll be covering will cover a broad spectrum of how we include evaluation as quite a key component that we leverage in the sort of teaching and learning process.
Okay, so for evaluation as learning, we are looking at how to get students to consciously think about how they evaluate things in everyday life. There are many choices that they make every day, from what to order during recess, what items they buy, which song they like to listen to. All these are part of their choices, their likes and dislikes. And we want to really get students to think about how did they come to this conclusion of liking certain things, their preferences, and being able to critique through evaluation. So one of this activity that we did with our students is to get them to evaluate by window shopping for tables. So as they are window shopping for the tables, they were looking at certain aspects that they set for themselves. For example, some of them wanted a gaming table and they looked out for certain things that would suitable for gaming. It must have a compartment to put their keyboards and things like that. As they are evaluating, they are learning the skills of evaluation, and it helps them later on to become more reflective and critical.
The next possible autonomy that we can give to students in terms of evaluation is when they are evaluating on their own for their peers for learning. 3 examples. First one is really using a palette as a way for the students to self-evaluate what they have done so far. So for example, this one is a in-progress kind of work that they have uploaded, and they're supposed to give a self-evaluation of what they have come up with so far. Subsequently, the peers will give 1 or 2 comments. A teacher also can give a comment so that they can actually use those comments to inform their next step or their next way to approach their problem or the task. The other one is really similar, so using the same kind of method, or even when they are discussing artists' works or some of the artifacts produced by artists. And the third one is really using the idea of grow and glow.
Okay, so we come to the third and sort of final category of the 3 E's also. Evaluation of learning. I think this is not to be mistaken that when we give students autonomy in this aspect, we are not allowing them to choose how they wish to be assessed. I think autonomy here is given in a way that we are equipping them or empowering them to sort of play the role of being the evaluator instead of just doing the work and then submitting it and getting a grade for it by the teacher. When they participate in the evaluation process, they are actually looking back at their own work, at their friends' work, and then taking ownership of their performance, and I think trying to internalize how then they could improve further. A lot of this has been already mentioned in the first 2 segments. What I'm going to share now, it's more in terms of the platforms that we use here. Presentation and showcase are aspects of evaluation of learning that we like to position either most of the time at the end of a particular project. Presentation is seen to be done by students of all levels at the end of it. We make a deal of having students put up their work and standing in front of the class and have students, the rest of the class, give the full attention to that speaker who is talking. So I think raising the stakes of who is speaking really accords a kind of ownership of learning or a sort of personal evaluation that happens. They are evaluating their friends and they're also evaluating their own performance in terms of how well they do at the presentation. Here is about the showcase of within school. Likewise, making a big deal of it, preparing the showcase space for students to get them excited while they are doing their work, because they know that their work is going to be showcased at this particular space in school. And of course also the actual installation of it, the curation of it. Actually, there's a particular kind of evaluation of their own work that has already taken place. And then extending it further, finding opportunities for students to showcase their work not just in the school context but even in the public context. This is quite an authentic form of evaluation, especially for our discipline in terms of art, where we see our work sort of functioning in the public domain with members of the public, an audience where they engage with the work, and then being able to stand up to speak about it confidently. I think there's much learning to be taking place when we do this. Alright, so that concludes actually the 3 E's that we have shared really in brief. In the interest of time, we are not able to share more, but I hope that has provided you quite a buffet of different things that you might be able to try out in your own schools. But really, just to summarize, I think for why we teach art is really to develop the different domains, not just the cognitive, but also I think emotional and the social development aspects of the subject, so that it also extends beyond the subject itself, getting into interdisciplinary synthesis. And really, in today's world, it's so important to be able to connect with people and to be able to solve problems creatively. Really, to iterate, when we speak about drawing a larger box or bigger box, I think we want to extend or role model for the students what it means to have an investment in something or an idea and to be able to take it further. Just like we want it for our students, I think as teachers we need to do it for ourselves. When students see that we allow them to make mistakes, we allow them to discover for themselves, or if they see that we are learning alongside them, they will likely be empowered to follow suit. And we like to leave with sort of this saying with you to conclude, that actually passion is something that is caught and not taught, and curiosity likewise is caught and not taught. So if we really want students to embody these values or these traits, then we as teachers must really embody them in the classroom. So we thank you for your time. It's been a great pleasure putting this together, and we learned quite a thing or two ourselves, and that's all. Thank you.